Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. I'm your guide, and today we're plunging into some really fascinating sources you've shared. Our mission, and it's a big one, is to sort of unravel the very nature of who we are, our identity, and how understanding that it might be more fluid than we think can unlock, well, immense love and liberation. Get ready for some profound insights, maybe some surprising stories, too. Could really reshape how you see things.
Indeed. And this isn't just, abstract philosophy we're talking about. It's really about shifting how we experience our everyday lives. We'll look at some ancient wisdom, connect it with modern science even,
Mm.
and see how it all points to a more maybe spacious, more connected way of being. Expect some real aha moments, I think.
Okay, so let's unpack this fundamental question. Who are we, really? We often have this feeling, right? This sense of a solid, fixed me, defined by our experiences, our beliefs, our history.
Yeah, that feeling is strong. But what's fascinating here is this concept of the fluidity of identity.
Hmm?
Our sense of self isn't actually static. It constantly changes. Think about it. You're a son or daughter with your parents, right? But then you're a mother or father with your kids, different roles. You could be a student, then a teacher, or like the example of professor taking a driving test, suddenly the student again. Even
Yeah.
our big things like political views or personalities, they can evolve too.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting, especially for those of us wanting, a grounded perspective. Modern brain research actually seems to echo this ancient idea.
Absolutely. It's quite striking. Brain researchers, after more than a century of looking for it, they've basically concluded there's no conceivable place for a self to be located in the physical brain,
Mhm.
and that, well, it simply does not exist in that way.
Wow. No central me button in the brain.
Seems not. And this aligns so well with what sages like Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj taught. His
Yeah.
core insight was this powerful paradox. Wisdom says I am nothing, love says I am everything. Which doesn't mean some terrifying void, It's
Yeah.
more like realizing that fixed identity we cling to. It's kind of an illusion. And seeing that opens us up to this profound interconnectedness.
That's a huge idea. And we see this playing out in human stories too, don't we? Like Father Greg Boyle's work at Homeboy Industries.
Oh, yes. Father Greg really illustrates how we build these layers of identity. He tells this story of a young gang member. First, he calls himself Sniper, then, Gonzalez, then Cabron, then Napoleon, layer after layer, until finally, with a bit of kindness, he reveals Nabeto.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, the name his mother uses, but only when she's not angry with him. It just shows how these identities we project can be, well, stories we tell ourselves, covering up maybe a more vulnerable true self underneath.
Okay, so this fluidity is inherent.
Hmm.
But, for many listening, it might feel abstract.
Yeah.
If our self isn't this fixed thing, what's the practical takeaway? How do we actually experience this shifting reality? Do the sources give us concrete steps?
They do. It starts with something they call stabilizing attention, learning to focus your mind. You know that sign in Vegas, you must be present to win. It's a bit like that. Often this is done through focusing on the breath. Simple, repetitive. One teacher even called it blessed monotony.
Blessed monotony, I like that.
Right, because this practice, it collects the scattered attention. It helps to clean the lens of perception so we can actually start to see what's really going on in this whole human mystery.
And when that lens gets cleaner, what do we start to see
Hmm.
about, say, our own bodies?
Well, what initially feels like a solid body, it can start to dissolve in our perception. It becomes more like a waterfall of sensing bodily experience,
Yeah.
dynamic changing, or even pixelated, like tiny moments constantly shifting.
Pixelated.
Yeah, and as we pay closer attention, something like pain changes too. What we first grab as my pain, it might become the body's pain, and maybe eventually even the pain of incarnation, something everyone shares. It deepens this understanding that the body is just a constantly changing phenomenon, not some fixed part of us.
And I guess the same applies to our thoughts and feelings. They feel so us.
Exactly. Thoughts, feelings, even our whole personal history, ultimately they're like stories. The practice helps shift our focus, not so much on the content, the specific details of my pain or my story, but more on the process. How all these sensations, feelings, thoughts, they just arise and pass away. Constantly. Unbidden. Impermanent.
That makes me think of that incredibly moving story from the Zen Hospice Project.
Ah, yes. Fran Costacesti's account. Two men, Rick and Stephen, both dying from AIDS. Rick was, understandably, very angry, frustrated. Stephen, though, radiated this deep peace. So Fran brought them together. They just sat, silently, for maybe 20 minutes. And Stephen's simple, peaceful presence, it just mirrored this compassion back to Rick. His heart, as Fran put it, just opened to Stephen's being. It shows the power of just resting in being, doesn't it? Without needing words or a fixed story.
Powerful. So the ultimate shift then,
Mm-hmm.
it's even beyond just observing the process. What happens when that lens gets really clear?
Indeed, it's moving towards identifying with the witness, the one who knows, or simply awareness itself. You can actually try this yourself right now. Just for 10 seconds, try not to be aware. You can't do it, can you?
No, it's just there.
Exactly. Awareness is always present, and it's quite trustworthy. Realizing this, really feeling it, is a key step towards, well, liberation.
Okay, but
Yeah.
if our sense of self is so fluid and we're just this witness, this awareness, does that mean we become, I don't know, detached, disconnected from the world, from people?
It's actually quite the opposite. This spiritual practice isn't some grim duty, or just about self-improvement in a narrow sense. It's often described as an act of love. Love for your own humanity and for our shared humanity. As the mind becomes more spacious, what they call your window of tolerance gets wider.
Window of tolerance.
Yeah, your capacity to hold the full range of human experience, joy, sorrow, fear, all of it, without shutting down.
Ah, I see. So it's not about avoiding the hard stuff, but being able to be with it all.
Exactly. And this spaciousness, it fosters a really profound kind of tenderness. It makes us more respectful of life, even the small things. There's that beautiful story of the Russian cosmonauts.
Oh.
They had goldfish with them in space. And the fish got sick. And these cosmonauts became incredibly concerned, really invested in these tiny fish. Because when you're that far from Earth, any little bit of life is so precious. It's a reminder of the immense value in things we might normally overlook.
That's lovely. Okay, but what about fear? We all experience fear. Does this practice mean we just stop feeling it?
No, not necessarily. True fearlessness isn't really the absence of fear. It's more the ability to be present with things exactly as they are without adding extra anxiety about imperfection. The goal isn't to perfect yourself. It's to perfect your love. It's to perfect your kindness.
You mentioned experiencing this personally with your own health scare. How did that fit with these ideas?
I did, yeah. About 5 or 6 years back, I was misdiagnosed with something pretty serious, a rapidly progressing condition involving dementia. And even with years of practice, I was honestly surprised at how anxious I got. Really anxious. When I talked to Ram Dass about it, he just laughed. Gently, He said, oh yeah, I flunked the course a couple times before. It was such a powerful reminder. We're all just human walking this path together. It's about kindness, really, not about achieving some state of perfection.
And there's another great example of that kind of honest acceptance from the teacher Ruth Dennison.
Oh, Ruth, yes. She was caring for her husband, Henry, who had Alzheimer's. Incredibly exhausting work. And she was giving a talk in Portland, and she was just so tired that she actually repeated the story about caring for him multiple times, just forgot she'd told it. And some people in the audience started to, get restless, maybe leave. But she stopped them. She said, you have a chance to see a senior Dharma teacher fail. Just owned it. Honestly acknowledged her exhaustion, her temporary lapse. It showed that truthfulness and love are way more important than keeping up appearances of being perfect.
That takes courage. So this whole journey seems to open us up to a much deeper reality. But what about this concept of emptiness? That word can sound, well, kind of terrifying, like a void.
Yeah, it can sound that way, but it's really not a void at all. As the Heart Sutra famously says, form is not different than emptiness. What it means is that all phenomena, everything we experience, are inherently impermanent. They're interdependent. They lack a fixed, independent self-existence. They're dynamic processes, not solid things.
Dynamic, not solid.
Right. The Buddha apparently likened it to watching bubbles on the Ganges River. They appear, they seem real for a moment, then they vanish. Empty, unreal, and insubstantial. My own teacher, Ajahn Chah, called this the wisdom of insecurity, understanding that nothing is solid. Well, initially it can feel terrifying, but then there's this relief, this realization, it's always been this way, you don't have to fix it, and that deep acceptance is incredibly liberating.
Okay, that raises a really important practical question, though.
Yep.
How do you actually function effectively in the world? Pay the bills, raise kids, if you're not identified with a fixed self? Does it lead to just checking out?
It's funny, the Heart Sutra also states, form is form, and emptiness is emptiness. Becoming more spacious, understanding this emptiness, it doesn't mean detachment in the sense of disengagement. Often, it actually leads to deeper engagement, more effectiveness. Take Maria, the emergency room nurse mentioned in the sources. She learned to rest in awareness, even amidst the chaos of the ER. She found this flow state where her mind became spacious and still present, sensitive to what is needed, and yet kind of detached at the same time, not emotionally cold, but not caught up.
Spacious and present,
Yeah.
but detached. That's an interesting combination.
Isn't it? And she applied it in her personal life, too. Like, during a fight with her teenage son, she could feel her body tightening up, the usual reaction, right? But then she could relax back into that awareness, remembering the underlying love, and respond differently.
It sounds almost like an effortless way of being, where action comes from a different place entirely.
Exactly. Effortless action. Oshima Sensei, the founder of Aikido back in the 1940s, tiny guy, apparently. There's this slow-motion video of him. He's surrounded by like a dozen top martial artists attacking him. And he just smiles and lets their energy flow through him. He effortlessly disarms them all. It's a beautiful demonstration of acting from that place of spacious awareness.
Wow. But, okay, Aikido masters, ER nurses in flow states. Does this apply to, the rest of us? Is this capacity really in everyone?
Oh, absolutely. It's presented as a fundamental capacity within all of us. Think about the Burmese nun. Healed her own metastasized cancer in her 20s. How? Through 2 years of intense meditation and herbal medicine. Incredible focus and resilience. And then she built a 4-story monastery. For vulnerable women dealing with mental illness, PTSD, homelessness, battered women, and she taught them meditation. Her spirit was described as unshakable, and many found peace of mind there that shows profound resilience and a very practical application of these teachings. Yeah. And there was that other story, too, the man who went to a retreat way back in 1977. He thought he was a total meditation failure. Couldn't get it, But years later, he has a massive heart attack. He's being wheeled into surgery, and instinctively, his meditation practice just all came back. He knew how to be present with it. It really reinforces this idea that these capacities, they're all in there, waiting.
So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening as you go about your daily life? This deep dive seems to show us that our identity isn't this fixed block of concrete, but more like a flowing river. And by cleaning the lens of our perception through mindful attention, we can start to witness the impermanence of our body, our thoughts, our feelings.
Right. And in that spaciousness that opens up, we don't find a scary void. Instead, we find this profound connection to all of life. It allows us to cultivate what was called perfected love and a true fearlessness. A fearlessness that can face anything, really. It's about trusting the wisdom and compassion that's already there within your, what some traditions call Buddha nature. Or you could just think of it as that profound potential for love and clarity inside each of us, just waiting to be nurtured.
I want to leave you with this really powerful thought attributed to the Buddha. Be like the lion, not frightened by the noise. Be like the wind, not caught in a web. Be like the lotus, not stained by the mud. Find your own way. Like the rhinoceros, wander and find your way to freedom. So the question for you is, what does it mean for you to wander freely through life? Deeply connected, unafraid of imperfection, and simply loving. If this deep dive sparked something in you today, or if you have one of those aha moments that shifted your perspective, maybe just a little, we would genuinely love to hear about it. Your insights, your reflections, they're what make this whole exploration so rich.